All right, today is March the 6th, 2021, and we are here with Jason Foglesong, who's running for Place 2 City Council. Jason, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So tell the voters who Jason Foglesong is.
Well, locally, I am a public educator, and I've previously been a manager for retail stores and also a corrections officer out at the Clements unit. And I've been involved in politics locally for a while. I want to say probably since 2016 or 2018. I know I tried to get involved with the Cruz campaign and all that when that Senate race was happening. But I was looking into it before then. And I figured if there's a lot of things going on in Amarillo that make me angry or make me upset, and a lot of people complain about the city, who am I to complain if I don't step up and try to offer a solution? Like, why be mad and just sit home and be mad without trying to change things?
Very good. So you're also you've served as a precinct chair for the Potter County Republican Party, and you're currently the Potter County Republican Secretary.
That is correct.
And you ran, your first foray into politics was, other than the precinct chair position, was you ran for Congress. Tell us how that worked out.
Well, I came in last. I didn't do a very good job campaigning. I think I was too reluctant to take off from work because, the taxpayers in Amarillo pay my salary to teach their kids, not to run for office. But it was worth it to get into it and experience it and meet a lot of new friends and learn how to stand up in front of a crowd and speak, because up until that moment, even in my classroom, I had never been that great at standing up in front of a crowd and just saying whatever I needed to say. I was always really self-conscious, and running for office you can't do that when you run for office.
You just have to say it and not worry about it.
Hope for the best.
Well, that's interesting. So it was a experience. So you'd do it again?
Yeah, someday. I wouldn't run against a well-performing, highly qualified incumbent. That would be a waste of my time and his.
Right. So now you've decided to try to become a city councilman. Why do you think you're qualified, and what do you see the role of the city council in our form of government with the city manager, mayor, council?
As far as qualifications go, I really think that all it takes is an interest in representative government and a belief in the system. I could say that I have a lot of political experience and knowledge, but like most Americans, I've focused mostly on national elections because we as a whole, as a society, tend to ignore city and county elections, even though those are the closest to home and they're the easiest to get involved in. They're not very exciting. So looking back at what I see going on in the city, and it's a microcosm of what's going on in the country. We have a problem with wasteful spending. We have officials doing things that the voters don't want, and we have a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency on their part. And it's really, I'm qualified because I want to stand up and reflect the electorate. I want to work to represent the people who put me in office. And that's what my job should be as a councilman or any elected official, is to reflect the electorate that put me there in the first place.
Very good. Well, I think maybe people are starting to wake up to the fact that their local elections are by far the most important. Really, I think we need to get back and focus on our county and our local elections, because that's where we can have the most impact and we can keep bad things from happening. So I think, I'm hoping people are starting to wake up to that fact. It's your local, it's the school board, it's your sheriff, it's your council members, it's your county commissioners and your JPs, because those people are the most closest to the voter and have everything they do impacts your life. And so at the national level, we see it, the news media reports it, but we have very little effect on that.
Yeah, we all get angry about these things that are way beyond our control. But meanwhile, there's various decisions that the school board in Amarillo has made, or maybe the AC Board of Regents. And I'm not going to take a stance on any of those things at this time. But there's people out there who have very divided opinions on things that are being decided right there at the local level. But if you look at those candidates, none of us, including myself, really knows who a lot of them are. And it's hard to become informed when you just don't even know where to look. So public voter education is very important.
Exactly. Well, that's why we're doing these interviews, to try to educate the voter so they can get to know who you are. So what do you see as some of the most important issues facing the city of Amarillo now?
Well, we've got a lot of wasteful spending, and the propositions, 2 of the 3 propositions in the previous election were voted down. And the proposition to spend $300 million on the Civic Center would have been a major problem for a lot of taxpayers, especially going into with this COVID crisis that we're in, with the recession that's falling behind it, and now the other economic issues that are going to face this nation due to the outcome of the 2020 election. You can already see, if you look, gas prices have gone up substantially in the last few weeks. Asking the taxpayers to open their wallets at a time like this is really irresponsible and not healthy for the city. Also, there's a lack of transparency involved. Since COVID became a thing, the city council has held their meetings virtually. And in order to speak, you have to sign up, and you can only speak to the council based on things that are on their agenda. And in some cases, the public comment is open prior to the meeting, so you don't know what they're going to talk about. And before that, those meetings were held on Tuesday afternoons at 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. The average blue-collar worker in Amarillo, all the people who make everything happen in this city, are at work, and they cannot attend these meetings. And they've done everything they can, in my opinion, to stifle public comment, to keep people out, and to exclude them. And I don't necessarily think it's a malicious intent on their part. It's probably aimed at making their jobs easier. But unfortunately, when you sign up to represent the people of Amarillo, your job is to be available to those people, and they're not doing that.
So what would you propose to do different?
Those meetings should be held in the evenings and potentially occasionally on weekends. Thanks to Prop C passing, one of the benefits is there's some flexibility in how frequently the meetings are held. So there's possibilities that things could be held on weekends or different evening days to make sure that everyone can come after work. And they need to be open to the public. And if you want to live stream for the people who are concerned about the virus or who want to stay home, there's no reason that we cannot live stream that. And I'm sure the incumbents are already looking into that since I've been talking about it. But those meetings open to the public comment needs to be wide open. If you live in the city of Amarillo and you have a problem and you want to address the council, there should be none of this nonsense about having it be on a specific agenda or having to sign up for permission to speak. And if you have a lot of people at your meeting and it's going too late, give everybody 2 minutes and then get one of the secretaries or somebody there to take their contact information down, get their points so that we can follow up with that voter and take care of what they need.
Well, those are all good ideas. I don't know why with technology they couldn't have a regular meeting in the evenings and then maybe also have a virtual meeting that people could participate in at other times that they wouldn't even have to leave their house. You could have more of wouldn't have to be a business meeting. It could be more of like just a city forum where anybody could town hall. There you go. And have it open to everybody, and they could use Teams or Zoom or whatever they want to use, and I don't know. To me, that wouldn't be that hard to do.
I agree. I mean, all of those things are very user friendly, and they run on all platforms. There's always a solution, and since we talk about COVID because it dominates our news and everybody's concerned one way or the other about masks or no masks and social distancing, there are plenty of locations and venues in this city that could very easily host a meeting and allow for that type of distancing and still allow that public interaction. There's all these precautions that we take in schools and in restaurants and other businesses. There's no reason that the city government cannot also take similar precautions to make sure that they're open and transparent in doing their job. And while I'm hitting on transparency, in addition to the meetings needing to be accessible, there also needs to be a stop to these 300-page minutes where you have to dig through a huge PDF file. The one for January of this year was literally 300 pages long. Nobody has time to read that. Nobody has time to analyze it and figure out what they want to talk about. And it's really very similar to what happens in Congress with these gigantic bills that are being passed with nobody having time to read them. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, because, you would think that they would have a summary or something of each one of those items that people could read to make it a little simpler for them to understand.
In the last few years, the navigation of those PDF files has gotten better, and somebody's doing a really good job of making them searchable. But still, 300 pages for a city council meeting, that's insane.
Well, I could see maybe having the business meetings at a certain time every week, and then having a regular monthly town hall that everybody could participate in.
That would make sense to me.
And just let people go in. Because to me, the ideas always come from the voters, the good ideas.
Well, the good ideas always come from somebody else. I steal my good ideas from people all the time. And if you look at it, we're about to be in summer. We have all these parks all over town that we could rotate where we do these town halls, and we'd have more than enough space for everyone to come and speak. And then there's a potential there to get the food trucks to come out to the event, and people can patronize those food trucks or those other stalls and things as they want to meet with the city government. Make it an afternoon thing for a few hours, get people together in each of the parks, and just show off what we have to offer.
Sounds like a great idea. I've heard when I'm talking to voters, one of the things that comes up is they're still very upset about this, I call it a rain tax or drainage fee.
Yep, I've heard about that too.
And I've kind of gotten into it with them about that. They don't like it when I call it a rain tax. But to me, that's what it is, because they're taxing us on moisture. And I think it's really a property tax. They use the front foot of your lot to calculate the rate. It's not a utility because they won't put it on the utility bill. And they say, well, it's something to do with their new billing system, can't do it. Well, I can do it in my utility billing software, so I don't believe that.
It's the idea, and honestly, anything that's a fee that you pay to the government, in my opinion, is no different from a tax. It's just arguing words. So if they're going to make you pay a fee or a tax based on the amount of rainfall you have, it's completely out of your control. Then how is this fair to anyone? And then let's say you have, like the house I live in has maybe a 20-foot front, gutter area. They're going to take this money to pay for the gutters, I guess is what it's for. So what about, say, one of these larger churches or the businesses in town that have huge parking lots? How is it their fault that they have to pay? I've heard, and I haven't verified, but I've heard from voters in Amarillo that some of these churches and businesses pay $700-800 a month in drainage fees. Mm-hmm. It doesn't cost that much to repair those gutters. I don't think that's really a fair or transparent type of fee to apply. And just because the city or the state says we have the right to charge it, doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It doesn't mean it's what we should be doing. And if they are going to maintain a fee like that, then there needs to be some type of process to evaluate how much it actually is, because some of our citizens, some of our businesses may have retaining walls or landscaping and other things to mitigate that drainage, but they're not getting any credit for that.
Well, when I hear the word fee, I think that a fee is something that's optional. In other words, I have a choice. I pay a fee to use a facility, but if I don't use it, I don't have to pay the fee. That's how I, in my mind, my simple mind, think. So it's not, if it's mandatory, it's a tax.
I agree.
So, to me, it's just, they went about it all the wrong way. I don't think their curb and gutters can ever wear out. It's concrete. I think they just wanted money, and I think they're spending a bunch of money to build streets and develop lots in the bottom of Palaya Lakes, and putting in all this infrastructure to drain them in case it ever rains here, which to me just doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. You don't build in a lake bed.
No, you shouldn't, because every so often it does rain, and it rains a lot.
I mean, if I'd built in a lake bed, I'm sure the government, the TCEQ and the EPA and everybody else would be coming down on me. But yet the city of Amarillo is developing lots in the bottom of lake beds. It just doesn't make sense to me. And then tell us that we got to pay a drainage fee. To me, if they were honest about it, the excuse I heard was, well, they did it in Houston. I'm like, so what? Just because they do something in Houston doesn't mean we should do it here. And
they do a lot of things in Houston that we shouldn't be doing here. They probably shouldn't be doing them in Houston either.
That's right. I would want to be looked at as say, well, Houston maybe needs to learn a few things from Amarillo, not the other way around.
And if that drainage fee is monthly, which I'm under the impression it's monthly, how is that fair to the taxpayers anyway? They're paying this fee on their property, and I still think it's a tax. Well, what if there's no rain? What if there's no rain? What if there's no drainage?
Well, that's what I told them.
Then you're paying for something that doesn't exist.
Exactly. And it hasn't rained for months. I said, if you're going to assure me that we'll get 2 inches of rain a month here, I don't mind paying a tax. But if you can't guarantee me the amount of rain, then you shouldn't be creating a tax. But they say, well, it has to do with drainage. Well, where does your drainage come from?
The neighbor's sprinkler. So why would I pay for my neighbor's sprinkler? That's stupid too.
Exactly. Or where does the water come from the neighbor's sprinkler?
From the water bill that you pay every month anyway. So now you're paying twice.
Exactly. And then eventually it comes down as rain through the hydrologic cycle. So at the end of the day, to me, it's rain tax. So that's one of the things I hear about a lot. But, you take a property owner that has a lot of properties, that small bill adds up to a huge bill. Thousands, if not tens of thousands a month that we're paying. So somebody else can develop lots in the bottom of a playa lake. And the other big issue I think the voters are talking about is the animal shelter. Do you have any opinions on that?
I know that that's going to be a big issue to tackle, and that there are some people out there that are opposed to even dealing with it because they think it shouldn't be their problem. But if we have a lot of people in Amarillo want a no-kill shelter, and I know that's a process that our city manager, Jared Miller, has said is possible. And there's another voter that I met today that's going to share his points with me because he had some numbers and some points that he'd made to promote a no-kill shelter, but I haven't received it yet. However, if a lot of voters want it, nobody really wants to kill furry dogs and cats and things like that. We don't want to get rid of our pets, although some people probably shouldn't have these pets because they don't take care of them. There's got to be a way to pay for this without creating a tax burden on the citizens. And one of the problems with the animal overpopulation issue is that some people don't spay and neuter their pets, so they're breeding uncontrolled in their backyards or in alleyways or wherever it is that they go. And I've also heard from some pet owners that there are vouchers provided to pay for spaying and neutering, but some of the vet clinics don't accept those vouchers. Now, my dog came from the shelter, and she was already taken care of when I got her. So I don't have any personal experience with that, but if the city's paying the voucher, why wouldn't the clinic accept it? And maybe there needs to be, and I don't know about draconian fines, although some people would argue that heavy fines is the best way to do this. There's got to be some kind of an ordinance that can be passed to require these people, these unauthorized backyard breeders, to get their pets spayed and neutered. And if they're running a business as a breeder, then shouldn't they be subject to the same licensing and fees that all other business owners are subject to? And I'm not sure if I agree with all of these things being assessed to individual taxpayers and citizens, but there's got to be an answer that doesn't involve just the mass putting down of perfectly good, perfectly viable pets just because there's no room for them.
Well, I wonder if you couldn't work with some of these nonprofits out there that are into that sort of thing, and they may be able to work with the city to save costs and come up with some creative ways to pay for the shelter or the no-kill shelter.
There's probably a lot of those, and I know some of those volunteers will take animals from here and transport them across state lines to other markets that want that pet, and that's great. There's a lot of different ways we can approach it, and it's going to be one of those things where the city is going to have to partner with these nonprofits in order to make this thing a reality. We can't just wave our hand and magically make it go away. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, and how to encourage people to be responsible with their pets, and that's always the issue, So A lot of it may be that they need to do more education, work with the nonprofits to educate people about how to take care of their pets, and maybe there should be a limit on the number of pets people can have inside the city limits or something.
I thought we had that, but I only have one. I don't know the details.
Well, I'm sure that there may be. It's like anything else. You hate to do something like that because most people take care of their animals, and then one person does something stupid and they got 12 Rottweilers and 3 pit bulls that are constantly fighting, and they run it for everybody else.
And then they make the rest of us that own pit bulls or Rottweilers look like we're bad people, because a lot of people don't understand that dog breeds are not inherently vicious. It's the way the dog is raised and socialized by its owners.
Yeah.
Like, I have had a hard time finding places to rent because I own a pit bull, and all she wants to do is sleep in the blankets all day and has never bitten anyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure hopefully the city will take that issue up and get it resolved to everybody's benefit. So what other issues do you see out there that the city needs to be taking up?
Well, we need to figure out a way to get more businesses to relocate to Amarillo or to open in Amarillo. I know there's an Amazon warehouse coming, and there's a dairy plant. I think I'm probably going to say their name wrong, but Cacique, or however, that one company that makes cheese and dairy products you can see at the grocery store, they're talking about building a plant here. I know some people were upset about the location that the plant was looking at, but I don't think a dairy smells. I could be wrong. We have these businesses coming in that are going to create new jobs. We need to continue that trend. A lot of the problems we have with keeping people in Amarillo is this is a nice city, but there's no future for a lot of our young people. AISD has a career academy now that's going to bring trade jobs and vocational skills to new graduates, which is helpful, but there has to be plenty of jobs for them. With some of those trades, construction is expanding and it'll help. But a lot of our economy here is service industry jobs, so hospitality jobs. They don't pay. And there's really no incentive to have a family and live in Amarillo if you have to move to Dallas or Austin to find a job and find a good paying job. So we've got to figure out a way to attract more to our city. So Amazon has a warehouse coming. It looks like a done deal as far as I can tell. And some people ask about tax abatements for that. And without knowing exactly what the details are, I know that it looks bad because, Amazon doesn't have to pay taxes for X number of years and they won't get the money. Well, it's possible that if we didn't make this deal with Amazon, and I wasn't part of the deal, so I don't want to criticize the council on that too much, but if we didn't make the deal, they might not have come here. So that's 1,000 jobs or however many people it's going to hire, plus their families are going to attend our school and they're going to go to our restaurants and our businesses and expand our population. So we're getting tax money in return, even though the government is not collecting it from Amazon directly. And then a lot of people will point out with businesses like that, Amazon has tons of money. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the country. But Jeff Bezos is not that warehouse that is being built in Amarillo. Sometimes we have to make these kinds of deals with these large companies to get them to come here and to get them to stay. So I'm not sure exactly what the answer is, but if it's friendly tax environment and perhaps developing a skilled workforce, which we're working on, and we also have that vet school that's here now, there might be an incentive for more and more businesses to come here.
Well, it seems like the recent councils have focused a lot on downtown, which tends to be more east downtown, east of Polk Street. What's your position on that? Do you think that's something that they should do, or should they focus on the whole city?
I think they should spread their attention around and focus on the whole city. The downtown looks really nice, but there's still a lot of problems with downtown. But if we spend all of our money and our time developing downtown, what happens to San Jacinto or the Barrio or the Heights? What are these other neighborhoods that people live in that are being left behind? There's trash everywhere. There's just, it's a mess. The dumpster versus the trash can issue is a thing. I see a lot of people talk about that, where there's problems with getting their dumpsters fixed. There's problems with getting their trash cans tipped over. There's problems with mattresses, TVs, and couches stacked in the alley. There's the sanitation department probably needs some support because there's things that are just not being cleaned up. And those types of things need to be sent, or that a type of attention needs to be paid to the entire city, because it's not just a poor neighborhood thing. It happens in Puckett and the Greenways too, with garbage stacked up everywhere. But if you spend all your money downtown and you focus on the real estate development down there, first I would look at who benefits from that, because somebody is making money from this some way, somehow, and it certainly isn't the taxpayers. And meanwhile, the rest of the town, the roads are bad. There's potholes everywhere. There's places in the heights that don't even have paved roads, and there's garbage everywhere. And what are we paying for? And why are we focusing on something downtown that only a handful of people will go to enjoy, while the rest of the neighborhood and the businesses are just ignored? People don't come to Amarillo to see downtown. They come to see 6th Street. They come to stay and eat while they go visit Paladaro Canyon. Or they stop in to have dinner at the Big Texan on their way through on I-40. There's very little downtown that actually draws tourists here. I would argue the baseball park doesn't really draw tourists either. That's locals from the Panhandle that probably attend those games.
Yep. Well, everybody wants to reinvent the wheel. I don't understand why we don't take what we have and use that and be proud of it. You know, we're a railroad town. We've got the railroad history. To me, they should focus on that. I think people would actually come to see something like that. You've got the big ranches. You could have history of the big ranches and the railroads. And we have Paladaro Canyon that people in Amarillo don't even know exists. I mean, they act like it. They don't want to mention the name. I guess because it has the word canyon in it or something. I don't know, but Amarillo seems to not want anybody to know that the Paladaro Canyon exists.
No, I don't know why that would be, but it doesn't seem to be a very, very often talked about thing. When we talk about promoting our city, we're getting those hospitality, those guests or our restaurants and our hotels that are going to go visit the canyon, even though we don't talk about it.
You know,
there's all kinds of opportunities for historical stuff in this town. Like we have the railroad, like you mentioned. Is there a railroad museum? I mean, there could be.
Yeah, they've talked about it. I don't think it's ever really gotten off the ground. You know, why don't you put in a railroad from here and go around the Paladaro Canyon, and it would be the biggest with the history of the ranches and stuff like that. You could turn that into a hellacious tourist attraction. But I mean, there's just take a little bit of effort.
And we don't really promote the things that we have.
We want to promote things we don't have, like baseball, that I think very few people, they can get that anywhere. So to me, you should focus on what's unique about your community.
This is true. And there's all that history. There's people that drive from Chicago to L.A. that specifically want to explore Route 66, right, but we don't talk about it.
And they don't do anything to improve our Route 66. I mean, people are like, this is it?
Oh, and they want the Route 66 businesses need help promoting their stuff and what they have to offer. And it seems like money is always an obstacle to everything. There's a water tower in Amarillo that could very easily have a Route 66 shield on it, but it doesn't. There could very easily be Route 66 painted on the roads or along the highway where it matches and it's appropriate, but it doesn't happen. And I don't know if that's a city or a state issue, but it's definitely an issue, and it's definitely something that some of those people that work and live on 66 really want to see happen. So maybe the city could do something to support them. There was somewhere else I was going to go with that. It could also have something to do with advertising. There's probably a way, even though, because we have visitor centers, but there's probably a way to promote the things that we do have. It seems to me that a lot of people focus on baseball or hockey, which, hey, we don't have a hockey team anymore. That's new. That just happened. So when we talk about spending money in the Civic Center, what are we going to draw to Amarillo? No concerts are going to come here. There's a variety of reasons for that. But a big part of it is that they have bigger, more extravagant arenas in Albuquerque and Oklahoma City and Lubbock. Why would a big major act come to Amarillo when they could go to Lubbock and make twice as much money? And now there's no hockey team. It seems to me that we're losing things that we had because we're focusing on the wrong issues.
Yeah, take care of what you got.
And we also have that huge fairground. The rodeo is one of the things that people talk about leaving Amarillo all the time because the Civic Center is not big enough. We have all the facilities that they need right there at the fairground. Why don't they use that?
Yeah.
It'd also be a lot less cleanup for the Civic Center staff.
Well, everybody wants something new and wants something fancy, but I don't think the voters care. I mean, if you're going to a rodeo, you don't need gold-plated knobs on the bathroom doors.
No, and most of the voters in this town, if you look at the median income, it's somewhere in the low 30,000s. Like, we are a blue-collar working town. Most of us do not have the time or the interest in a lot of these upscale events that some people seem to be trying to promote. These are regular folks who just want to go out to eat and have a good time and maybe go see a show every now and then, but spending millions and millions and millions to develop things that they won't even go to, we really need to focus our money on things that put the people of Amarillo first.
Yeah. Back to basics.
Mm-hmm. And they need to be made sure that they're affordable for the people of Amarillo. We don't need to be building tourist attractions before we serve our own community.
Well, and I've mentioned it before, and I said I've talked to the previous city managers about it. I said, if you're going to develop a downtown, you need to bring something in that's going to create jobs that are there all the time. I would take a big group of city blocks. I don't know how many you could put together, but I'd make it as large as possible and just give it to tech. And then they could have built their facility instead of out off Soncy, plop that downtown. Then you've got real jobs, real people, real staff, doctors, nurses. You could have a facility where they could have conventions coming in, built by a university, doing research, and the city wouldn't have to pay hardly anything.
That's true.
And it would totally clean up downtown.
There's also at least one high-rise down there that could be turned into apartments, affordable apartments for college students. You'd put some other things in that. I can't. Is it the WT Tower? There's a tower down there. It might not be the WT Tower. There's at least one building down there that could be very easily changed into an affordable apartment system set up for students only, AC, WT, in that case, tech students. And you put some other businesses in there and maybe put a museum in there to show some of the historical stuff that's in that building. It might be worth it. Then you've got people living downtown.
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to do it, create the incentive for somebody to come in, give them free land and infrastructure, and encourage them to put their facility there, and then everything else takes care of itself. Let the market work, as opposed to trying to make government go in and do things and force an issue. It just doesn't work, in my opinion.
No, it generally doesn't, or it ends up costing way more than it's supposed to.
Exactly. So where do you see Amarillo in 10 years?
Well, probably we'll have grown significantly more toward Canyon, and hopefully we'll have some more I would like to see some more white collar or high tech type jobs come in here. There's really we have education here, we have people here. There should be no reason why we can't have more prestigious jobs and careers coming into this town. So hopefully we're going to grow south and grow north and east and all those directions. But I'd like to see some more high tech stuff happening in this town.
Well, we have the beginnings of a good medical community, and that, I don't know why that couldn't be enhanced with the pharmaceutical industry.
It should be
pharmaceuticals. That's big business, and they're basically the same.
This town
drug.
could be a major hub of healthcare,
Exactly.
pharmaceutical research, and education. We have all of these things. There's a lot of things to draw students to Amarillo. We just need to figure out a way to get them to stay.
Well, I think if you focus on those things, that eventually, because it doesn't take that much. And once one starts coming, then they find out about it, then more and more people will come. And the other thing is, you're an educator. What is it that you teach?
U.S. government.
So you're a government teacher.
I'm a government teacher that's trying to get involved in government, which I guess is a good lesson for my students no matter how things pan out.
Putting your money where your mouth is, your time where your mouth is, where your interest is. Well, that's good. But The other thing, people complain about, I've been hearing this, the growth is going south and west. Well, part of that is, I think it's just the natural order of things. Most cities in the northern hemisphere grow south, is my understanding, and the ones in the southern hemisphere tend to grow north. We're constantly trying to get down to that equator.
I would wonder if it doesn't have something to do with the convenience of I-27 and the wide open spaces that are down there.
Well,
Whereas when you look to the north, you have 287, but there's maybe it's less accessible for some reason. But there's lots of real estate on the north side of town. There's no reason that we couldn't expand that way.
Yeah, it's just that, like you say, it's not in people's path. But the other thing I think that really forces growth that people don't really think about is the schools. People want their kids in good schools districts. So if Canyon has a better school district, that's where the people are going to move.
It's true. And there's also no school there is a school on the north side, but North Heights is an alternative school. There's no explicit school that serves that neighborhood. I mean, Palo Duro's northeast, Caprock is southeast, Amarillo High is south, Tascosa is kind of central with San Jacinto area. If you expand too much to the north, then we're going to end up building a brand new school, which isn't a bad thing, but it could be, like you said, the school's not there. The services and the infrastructure and the things that people want to live by are not already there. Mm-hmm. And that probably encourages that southward expansion.
Sure. It's a lot of different things. And the reason the schools are better because the infrastructure's there and the people are there. So, but I think you see that in a lot of parts of the country. I've seen it in different places, and it's just that people want the growth is going to occur in the school districts that people want their kids to go to. So people don't really understand how important it is to focus on their schools.
That's true, and there's going to be competition between Amarillo ISD and Canyon ISD. And I don't know that I believe that Canyon is better than Amarillo, but I might be biased in favor of where I work at.
Well, it's just perception. So
yeah,
it's whatever people think is true. So if they think Canyon's better, I guess it is.
And maybe they want that small town feel that Canyon offers. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not that versed on which school districts are perceived better.
All I know are the stereotypes that I hear around Amarillo, and I don't honestly think any of those bear repeating because I don't think any of them are true.
Right. I think they're all probably pretty good schools. All right, Jason. Why should they choose you over your opponents for this position?
Well, when I mentioned it at the beginning, how I said I'm a representative, I want to reflect the electorate or to reflect the voters that put me in. You have to consider when you look at your government, do you want as a voter a delegate who is basically what I'm offering, somebody that you can send to office who will do what you expect and do what you want and come back and report to you and be accountable to you? Or do you want a trustee, which is somebody that you can basically send out there and forget about and hope for the best, but that person is going to do whatever they want? You have to balance that. I'm a delegate. I want to do what the people of Amarillo ask of me. I'm not going to sit here and wag my finger at them and look down my nose at them and think that I know better. And also you have to look, the media is great at this, and people do this all the time. They see these people in government as leaders. They are your representatives. They are accountable to you. They're put into office by you, the voter, and the voter needs to hold that person accountable and make them care. And too many of these folks get elected to various positions, and then they start to see themselves as leaders, and they forget who put them in office in the first place, which is also why we need to work on term limits.
Yep, very good.
And when you look at fiscal responsibility and all that, and I want to reflect the electorate, one of the things that we can do to help that is move those elections in May to November of even-numbered years. They need those elections. Nobody cares about city and municipal elections because they're not exciting and they're not controversial. But if you move them to November, you're not only going to save Potter and Randall County like $100,000 or more to run that election because it costs a lot of money. You're going to see the state of Texas and other entities picking up some of the cost if you hold it in November, and you're going to see more voter turnout, more participation. And then these candidates, myself included, are all going to have to stand up and own their platform just a little bit more, because they're going to be, even though municipal elections by our state constitution are nonpartisan, and I can't sit here and say I'm a Republican or a Democrat, I would have to stand up next to Republicans and Democrats and articulate my policy preferences, my position and platform, and I'm going to have to own what I say, because all of the voters are already in that voting mindset. And they're going to actually know what they're looking for, whether they like one person or another. It'll be easier for them to decide when they have all these other thoughts going on in their head because of the national coverage. Plus, it'll save the taxpayers a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's it makes sense to. I've never understood why they want to do elections in May. I think it's basically to minimize turnout.
Low voter turnout is a way to sneak bad ideas through without anybody paying attention, and that goes back to the idea of people who are delegates versus trustees. Oh, yeah, trust me to do a good job. And then I do whatever I want when the cameras are off. We have a lot of politicians that do that. It's not limited to municipal elections.
No, it's all the way up and down the line. Well, very good. That's what we're trying to do here, is to get the message out to the voters so the candidates can be seen by the voters and get a more of a in-depth understanding of how they think. Because I think what the voters want at the end of the day is somebody with good judgment.
I think
somebody
so.
that they can relate to, that thinks straight, and this person, does he have our interest in mind? And they want somebody with good judgment. And I think, and so that's why we're trying to do this. So hopefully we'll get this out and everybody will watch these and make good decisions. How can people get a hold of you if they want more information?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I have a website. So it's jasonforamarillo.com, or you can find me on Facebook with the same thing, or my personal account. If you just search Jason Foglesong, you'll see both. And on top of that, if you happen to have one of my business cards, there's a QR code that'll take you straight to my website if you'd like to see it. There will be plenty of forums and events that I'll be in attendance at, and I'm more than happy to sit down and talk with anyone who wants to listen, or who wants me to listen, rather.
Well, very good. Well, Jason, do you have anything else you want to tell the voters?
Just find out what your candidates stand for, find out where they're at, and make your choice wisely. Educate yourself on everybody that's on the ballot before you just decide. Because there's a lot of us on this upcoming May ballot, and just because I like one of them or your friend likes one of them, make sure you find out who you actually support and if they reflect the values that you think are important.
Well, very good. Well, we appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.